So where I want to start is first with why, the living system, and then briefly, and then what I would like to come from this moment or the living system in general, and then going back to really filling out all those pieces and pulling it apart as we go through. So for me, the why of the living system is literally that it's the glue. Everything that we are doing in regenerative agriculture, generally, even though we talk about soil, it's above ground. It's the things that we can do to allow ourselves to be present in a place and help restore it and work everything forward from that. The living system is the glue to that land, and it's one of the reasons that it becomes an indigenous philosophy, because it's about the people and the place. It's what holds you there. It's the why of what you're going to do of restoring that land. And that why, as I've spoken a few times about this week, is often from an academic perspective, placed as saving humanity, placed as making sure we have enough food. But this is coming from why as in life. This is coming from right down deeper than all of that to saying what we're doing here is we are deeply connecting to life. We are threading ourselves into life. We are allowing life's evolution. We are allowing life's expression and experience to be what we work with. And heavily through the book is using those words of caretaker, steward, and as a trustee and as a shepherd, those sort of beautiful words that allow us to be an ally alongside of life. And how can we work with life and for life and through life to allow all of these things to happen? Life is a constant regenerative process. We didn't come up with that as humankind as a great way to save the planet. It's what life's been doing all along. It's how life creates and functions and flows. She regenerates every moment. She is a changing cell, a changing bacteria, a soil, flow, the water ebbs and flows, all of these things constantly moving to create. She is in love with herself and life and all of her creations. And she is so in love with it. She plays and wants to create again and again and again in so many different beautiful ways with so many different expressions that we get to experience all of that, and we bring that into ourselves and allow that to be what shapes and forms us. What's happened prior to this moment is that shaped and formed us in this capitalist colonialist way that has pulled us into this separateness, pulled us away from what we really belong to, and allowed us to be a part of this hamster wheel to which is a perfect system. All systems are created to save themselves, and it is saving itself. It's not failing at the moment. It's doing exactly what it's meant to do. It doesn't matter how many of us step out of it, it will continue because it's the way it's been constructed. And what we need to do is be able to step outside of that and go and make the connection back to our oneness, our wholeness, and see, hang on, that system that we are a part of is actually not designed to save us. It's designed to save itself. It doesn't matter if we burn out. It doesn't matter if we have mental health issues, physical issues, any of those things, if we drop out of that system, because the system will continue. And the loop into that constantly of, I'm going to step out and I'm going to play and I'm going to do all these things. But there's all these, especially economic ties that chain us back to that system of, yes, but remember you have a mortgage, honey, you better come back in. Yes, remember you have that debt, buddy, you're not going to solve it that way, come back in. So there's always this thing that pulls us back in, that tricks us into thinking that's where we belong and that's how we have to play. And it's been so strong, it's allowed us to become past people, ancestry people who have fought into that system. And now we're changing it and saying, hang on, if we recognize ourselves as this wholeness, we can not only step out of that system, but we can very powerfully create a system that is allow ourselves to be a part of the creation of the system that's already there. Because there is another system that is working, and it's called life, and it flows, and it's abundant, and it's fluid, and it will continue to allow us to thrive and flourish regardless of this other one. We just have to learn how to step back into it. And that's the glue to the land that we're on. And that sits so beautifully under every other piece of work that we want to do, because you know your place and you know where your heart is, and therefore you are wanting to allow the life on your land to express. So you're walking out every day, and how do you want to be today, life? How do you want me to work with you today? Oh, you're growing tomatoes, how beautiful. Oh, you're growing strawberries, that's delightful. Oh, you're having trouble over here, what can I do to help you? That's how you restore. That's how you work in with her and say, what are you asking of me? What are you showing of me? What are you revealing to me? And how can I listen to the language that you are speaking to me? Which is a constant, right? And you all know that, completely, because it's a droopy leaf or a brown leaf or something that's happening within the expressions that are there to say, life's talking to me here. What's she saying? How do I need to respond? Oh, I can give you some water. Oh, you must be lacking in some nutrients. Oh, you don't like that much sun. So that conversation is happening constantly. And it's not always a silent conversation. There are pieces of silent conversations, but it is the birds and the butterflies, and it's the rustle of the grass as a lizard runs through, and all these sorts of things that tell us that so much of a diverse, biome is happening within, our space. And we want to hear the frogs at night, and we want to be able to see all the birds and everything happening, talking to us and telling us this is how life is thriving. And in the other language of, let's say, a permaculture language, that's the same thing, right? Like they're saying, we don't want that silence. We need to have that biodiversity there to be able to know that it's a thriving ecosystem and everything else, right? Taking that deeper, we're saying that's life. That's life talking to you, and you're a part of that. And I think one of the biggest myths that we've ever been told, and has been proven wrong now through the pandemic and through each other, right? Like through each other, and when you really have those beautiful relationships. And that is that the system also tells us that not only is it going to care for us, it's going to save us. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And we're experiencing that now. When we go to the hospitals and we can't find the treatment we need, or there's not enough doctors, or we have a huge issue in Australia at the moment with ramping. The hospitals are full. So people are being cared for in their ambulances, as they pull in and this sort of thing, right? Well, there's not enough beds because we've lost that authority in ourselves to truly, deeply connect and understand and go, this is what's happening within me. And that's a part of that fear that leads us back into, I'm caring for you. I'm going to save you. This system, this is where you need to belong. This is how you need to be. And this is how we can keep you here to allow you to truly be nourished and fed by us, because we'll look after you. But what happens when the pandemic comes and there's no reach into some of those networks, and all of a sudden we realised, you know what? It's actually not the government that's caring for us, or that system that's caring for us. It's each other. And all of a sudden we had an example of a time where we could deeply lean into each other and find that nourishment. And if we go back to that time, our apothecary, our herbalists, they were in our street. And so was our wise woman, living on the fringes somewhere that we could walk down to. And, so, who would either help us with sometimes mental health, but sometimes dreams and visions and things that were happening, right? And there was the person who could bake and all these things. And within our village, someone was there that was caring for us. And they weren't caring for us from 9 to 5. They were caring for us every day of every hour. And that's the system that's telling us it's not there. You need to be here, and it is there. And that's where, if we run back into each other's arms, if we run back into this relationality and run back into having this connection and this trust within each other, we start to realise, I can pull myself away less from this system. More, and rely less on that system. So one of the things I say at the end of the book is, the process of that is the daunting part, right? Like, how am I going to do that? And it's the capacity to do that step by step. And if right now each of us recognize, I am locked in, I'm 100%, I've got debt past my eyeballs, I've got this happening, we can say, well, you know what, in 1 year I want to be 80%. So what are some of the things I can do to bring myself down to being 80% relying on that system now? And in 3 years' time, I'm going to be 70% or 50%. What are the steps I can take to slowly allow that system to release from me in whatever way we each have, and pull myself back into being a part of this system here? And it's fully, I would love it to be overnight. And we were talking just yesterday how overnight we did see that things could change, right? Like, we made some dramatic changes during COVID where all of a sudden overnight, bang, all of these things are gone and everything else. And it really showed that we can change very fast. But the system's not going to allow that to happen. The system wants us there. The system needs us there. So we have to be the ones that start to actively seek ways to pull ourselves away from different things in whatever way we can. So that's the why of what the living system holds as a capacity to draw us into what truly we are a part of. What I want at the end of this is for people to allow the living system to truly be a part of their life, and to be keen to be able to work out, how do I do that and how can I step into that? And how can I place all of that back into my heart? How can I awaken it again within my bones and in my being, so that I am then wanting to take those steps away from that other system and wanting to slowly move forward, releasing myself and coming back in together. And granted, that is a difficult question. And it is why so many people think the answer is to run to the hills and find an intentional community, because as in, that's the answer. We all want the same, let's just go there and make that happen. But we also know that that's not really the answer. And we've seen over a lot of years how there's been some success with that, but how lots of those things have been flawed. And a part of that is because, again, the missing glue was always that we weren't deeply connected to everything else that was around us. We were trying to build communities on top of and not as a part of. And releasing that separation and allowing ourselves to come back in to what we are a part of is where we all begin, like really understanding the space and the place that we hold within life. One of the parts within the book that I find is a really powerful point, and it's a little way in, but it's understanding that we are both at once an expression of life as much as we are an experience of life. I am life's offering. I'm one of life's dreams. She dreamt me and created me in this form. I'm one of her expressions, but I'm also an experience for everyone else here. So at the very same time as expressing as yourself, somebody else is experiencing you as that. So a beautiful way to constantly be able to stay connected in that space is, how do I actually want to be experienced? If this is the expression of me, how do I want people to experience me as that expression? And it allows us to sort of draw back in and really be able to go, if I was a rose, everybody wants to come and smell me and see my scent and admire me and think that I'm beautiful, right? So if I'm a person, how am I going to relate that? How am I going to allow that expression of beauty and, that there's so much nurturing and nourishment that you can get from me as a person? And it's really difficult when the system we're being drawn into and a part of has created so much trauma, colonialism being our, biggest damage, right? And what has driven wedges through so much of us. So the start of the book is actually around, looking at why we are here. And I know that a lot of that is discussed, But what is really different with the living system is in allowing it to come through, it's not written from a human voice. It's written from life saying, this is what I would be saying to you. This is what you have done in leaving me. You have trampled me. You have destroyed me. You have not just bruised me, but you have cut me. You have thrashed me. And you have done that in this, really under this term called colonialism, right? It's not just what's happened to us. That land has been raped. That land has been destroyed and burnt. And this is where our connection back to it, our nurturing back to it. And we are necessary. I challenge that we are not a keystone species because humanity's done nothing to prove that we are brilliant other than to destroy. But we have the chance to be very different in bringing ourselves back to saying our role is as caretakers. That's what we do. We have the ability not just to know and hold compassion, but to know where we can place it and where we can grow it. We have the ability to understand empathy and know how to share it and how to give it to animal, to plant, to each other, those sorts of things. So essentially, we are one of life's important pieces between everything she wants to create and everything she's making on the ground and all these animals and everything else, to be able to go, I'm here with your hands and your heart to be able to hold you through all these pieces and to be able to walk with you and help you in all of these ways. Not cut you, not thrash you, but hold you and nurture you and help you. And that's when you think about it from that perspective, you understand how important we are. Sure, will life continue without us? Of course it will. She's going to evolve. And to think from a humanity perspective that this is the greatest she's ever made, I mean, we've got to be kidding ourselves. You know, we are going to be far greater than this. To think that we may have wings one day, to think that we can speak, we'll finally get back to our, mental telepathy and everything else one day. These are gorgeous dreams that we can come back to if we let go of this form and allow ourselves to be past our skin and past our fingers and toes and really be able to go, I am so much more than this housing. I'm every part of energy and expression within me, and I can take all of that out there. So in journeying through that first piece of saying, why are we here? What are we doing? It's looking at colonialism and capitalism from that living perspective and really being able to go, this is what we've done. And the main result of that is that separateness. Like that separation and that isolation was a part of the game. And we know that that's the game from a colonial perspective, like separating Indigenous people from each other and their language and all that sort of thing. That very same thing is what's happened to life, right? We can't hear her language, and we've pulled one of her children away from her. Any language we use around colonialism of what's happened and the trauma and the tragedy is exactly the same thing, that life is missing her children. Life is not having her hands or whatever else there because we've been separated and pulled apart. Yeah. So the start of the book is really talking about that. The very first space that goes into after that is around belonging, and why belonging is so important to the living system. But I wanted to show you, if everything comes awake, thank you. In all the conversations I have with people and organisations around the One Living System, the words all our separation continue to rise, and that is the leading concern that the living system addresses, so we can embark on a reunion, a return, a remembering of who we are, of our wholeness. So the why would we venture into exploring the one living system? Why would we journey into knowing life's foundations for creation? The answer is because of all our separation, and because within the living system foundations, we find all our foundations. They are the water, the air, the earth's foundations. They are the foundation for soil, for food to grow, the foundations through which life creates a philosophy. It is her language of creation, her ethos for existence. So diving in, this is the space of truly knowing ourselves as one, as a part of the living system. It begins in saying, let's look at all the pieces we may have overlooked in getting here, the little snags we've been caught on, the threads we haven't realised we have been tied to learn all that has held us, separated us from where we belong, and then give us a visual as it circles back to ask us to begin to know ourselves like never before and live amongst life more than we ever have before. Why would we bother to do that? Why would that make a difference to this moment? How could that be part of the solution? Because all of our separation has led us to this moment of crisis that we find ourselves in. And bringing ourselves back, returning to our place, allows us to not only discover the truth of all that we are, but allows us to return to our place as shepherd, as caretaker, as lover, as friend, as mother to each other and all things around us. From this space of love, compassion can blossom and grow, and we can build forward into the life our hearts know are possible, a return home, if you will. Home is an extraordinary feeling, not just of belonging, but of trust, safety, and connection. It is a relational feeling deep within our being, and that home is amongst each other and all of the rest of life. This journey is going to take us home. We will find ourselves within the pages and within our own being, knowing the living system as ourselves, as unique expressions of life, a part of all other gifts of creation. Imagine what it is to return home. Think of all the videos we've seen where non-human companions and their human friends reunite after time apart, and the deep surge of emotion we feel as we see them embrace, and the tears of love and joy. This is a part of that feeling. This is the return home, knowing that true north, the inner compass that returns us again and again, despite all that may be happening. This is that feeling. It may seem easy to belittle or ignore that deep connection to ourselves, to each other, to all that is around us, above and below us, and to even dismiss that it could be a solution. But I ask the question, has it ever been a space that we have dared to explore in this capacity before? Have we ever sought to find ourselves as a part of each other and all of life before? To which the answer is no, or we would not continue to have that rising question of all our separation. I don't believe we have ever fully known ourselves in this way, or explored life in this way, or sought a future as oneness. And so I ask for a curiosity to rise in each of us, that we will find ourselves within these pages, that calls us to find ourselves amongst life, that can lead us on our greatest path to an inspiring alternative, to an ecological existence. So there's an invitation to step into exploring one living system, life's sacred language and our collective journey, and to finding ourselves and finding our path through all of life herself.